Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, the radio show all about traveling like a boss by being your own boss. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have built their own online businesses. If you would like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit travellikeabosspodcast.com for instant access. And here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Johnny, and welcome to episode 10 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm extremely excited to announce that this week we have Anton Kraly, the guy who changed my life and got me from being broke to living a really, really comfortable life, and my business is growing exceptionally and really just opened up a whole world of opportunity. So I'm really, really proud to have him here as a podcast guest and have him kind of drop some knowledge on you. So what's up, Anton?
Yeah, what's up, Johnny? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the chance to talk to you a little bit and get the word out to everyone that already kind of follows you anyway. And I'm loving the podcast so far, so good job with it.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. So my life, when we first met, was completely, absolutely different. I mean, I was still out here in Thailand, Chiang Mai, and I was still enjoying life, but I was really limited on the things I could do, places I could travel to. I mean, travel really wasn't even really an option. I can live in cheap places, but I really wasn't able to, to go anywhere. And now we have plans to, basically go, just really crush it in the world. How do you feel about this lifestyle being out here?
Yeah, I love it. I came to Southeast Asia about 9 months ago, and when I came, I didn't know if I was going to stay for 3 weeks or 3 months. I kind of told myself I'll give it at least 3 weeks to kind of adjust and see if I like it, and if not, leave. And at the most, I figured I would stay for 3 months, and I kind of fell in love with the place. I've been here 9 months now. I'm heading back to the States in a couple of weeks for the holidays, but it's a great place to live.
All right, so in this week's episode, what I want to talk to you about, I want to pick your brain, is first we'll talk about how we met. We'll talk about your dropship course, the kind of the things that I did to make money, and the things that people listening can do to follow the course and really make money, and what really differentiates the people who buy the course and never do anything about it versus the ones that really start crushing it. And we'll kind of end it with our future travel plans and how you just figured out how to travel anywhere you want in the world, live for an entire year for free. So let's get started with the story. And actually, how did you get started with dropshipping?
Yeah, I got started with dropshipping a couple years after I had got started with e-commerce. The way I got started with e-commerce was I graduated from college in 2006, and I bought my first business. My plan was to buy a business, kind of grow it up as big as I could, sell it for more money, buy another business, grow it, flip it, and just continue with that process until hopefully I could retire at a young age and, just kind of get out of business altogether, have my money, and live and travel the world. So the first business I bought was with all the money I had saved up while I was working in high school and college. It was actually a delivery route for a bakery in Brooklyn, New York. So what I would do is drive to this bakery with a big truck, pick up all the products, and then drive around Long Island, where I'm from, and sell these products to different stores that I had on accounts. So this was a 2-day-a-week route. My plan was to turn it into a 5-day-a-week route and sell it for more. So I realized right away, as soon as I got into it, that I did not like it. It wasn't for me. It was already too late, though. I'd spent all my money on it, and I was committed. So I was trying to figure out how to grow this, and one of my friends actually lent me the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. This is back in 2007, and this book talks about e-commerce a lot and kind of gives you a brief intro. So I thought, okay, what could I sell online? What can I get into with e-commerce? And I already had this route. I had these products available. So I created my first e-commerce store, which marketed New York bakery products to people that no longer lived in New York, maybe moved out of the state, and kind of missed everything from back home. So I set up an e-commerce store. I set up Google AdWords, and within a few weeks, I was making more money from my e-commerce store than I was by driving around New York for 2 days, dealing with managers that were just a hassle and trying to sell myself. Instead, I had people coming to my site and buying from me. So this was all going well. I was making money, but I was selling cheap products, maybe $10 to $20. So one of my former college roommates actually saw that I was doing well online, saw that I was making money via e-commerce, and he wanted to get involved. He was working, didn't really like his job, so we started meeting up and researching expensive items to sell online. So, sell the same amount, make a lot more money. Maybe a few months after we did research, a lot of research went into before we made a dime, but we studied the markets, we found a good product, we put up a website, and our first day that site was live, we sold an item worth over $1,000, and we haven't stopped since then. So this is back in 2007, and I've been running e-commerce businesses since then. About 2 years after I started that, I started to dropship instead of import, and since I started dropshipping, there was maybe a year transitional period that I worked with both suppliers in China and dropshipping companies, and after about a year year of selling for both, I switched completely to dropship suppliers.
All right, so before we get into the actual drop shipping side of the business and how you started scaling up now, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, right now we all use Shopify, and it's super easy to use. What did you start with on your first online store?
My first group of e-commerce stores were all built on the Yahoo Stores platform for the only reason that is that Tim Ferriss recommends that in the 4-Hour Workweek. It was great back then. I don't recommend it now. It looks like it hasn't been updated since then. So I kind of took his advice. I followed that book for what it says, started a store, and now I use everything on Shopify. It's just much easier.
It's so much easier to use, and it's so much more elegant and beautiful, and it looks like a nice, legit store. Actually, a little trick and tip for everyone out there is if you're thinking of what niche to sell and your competitors are using Yahoo stores and they're still making money, they're still in business, you can just make a Shopify version of it and really just take over and kill it. So let's talk a little bit about what dropshipping is. For the people listening who have no idea what dropshipping or e-commerce is, can you give us a brief explanation of it and the pros and cons?
Yeah, the overview of dropshipping in general would be you have an e-commerce store, meaning you have a website that sells products to the end consumer. When you receive an order, you don't have that actual item in stock. You work with a company that will send that item to your customer. So this could be a manufacturer, it could be a wholesaler, it could just be a local store that has products in stock. So when you sell that product, they'll ship it to the customer. That's what dropshipping is in general. The way that I think dropshipping works the best, and the only way that I do dropshipping, is selling products for the actual brands that create these products. So instead of just selling something generic like a wooden bar stool, I'll sell a product for a specific brand that makes it, and that you can only sell if you're approved for an account with them. So I try to make it very niche specific, and I try to sell for brands that are somewhat well known, but only online, maybe that don't have any physical presence, and especially that aren't sold in big box stores.
So if anything, you're actually kind of doing customers you're helping customers out, especially if a customer doesn't live in a really big city with easy access to be able to buy these products that they want at a big box store. They can shop on your store on these niche e-commerce stores you made, and it can be shipped anywhere in the U.S. or really anywhere in the world. But what I really like is that you read the 4-Hour Workweek and you actually followed what Tim Ferriss said and actually did it. That's very different from what most people that read the book did, and including myself. And I really wish I would have just followed his actual advice instead of trying to take shortcuts at the time. Because I remember in 2007 when I read the book, I took a lot out of it, but I didn't actually follow his steps exactly. And so it took me another 4 years to really start making money online. And what's actually funny is we became Facebook friends in around 2007 when that book came out. But we had never met until earlier this year.
Yeah, right. We became friends on Facebook. I'm pretty sure from the 4-Hour Workweek forums. They're no longer up, but when Tim Ferriss first published that book, he had forums where readers can go talk about different business ideas. And, I was in there and I was active because this is when I was first trying to figure out what this whole e-commerce thing was. So, yeah, we were friends on Facebook, and I saw that you were, living in Thailand for the past few years. So when I was first out here in Asia, I was doing my trip through Thailand, seeing all the different cities. And then that's when we first met up and grabbed some dinner. And I left Chiang Mai, but eventually came back, and yeah.
Yeah, and ever since then we became friends, and Anton's really a mentor to me. I still remember, that first dinner we had was at this, I think it was like a Japanese style Thai, I don't know, sukiyaki place. But over dinner, I was just asking Anton, I'm like, hey, so what do you do for work? And he was explaining to me his dropship businesses. And at that time, I had kind of heard about the term, but I didn't really understand what it was or what the real benefits were. But as soon as that dinner was over, it started kind of just being in the back of my mind thinking, man, this makes so much more sense than me trying to make money off of ebooks or creating a product that people don't actually want yet, and that you have to go out and market it and convince people to want it. Why not just sell a product that people are already searching for that they already want? So I right then I signed up for Anton's course, watched the videos, and it took me a few months of hard work because I had never ever made an e-commerce site before, never called a dropship supplier before. But because I had met Anton and I knew he was genuine, I knew he was legitimate, and he wasn't trying to sell me anything, but I saw how successful he was, I just thought, you know what? Why not give this a shot? I mean, what do I really have to lose? I have maybe a couple of months of my life and a couple $100 total versus starting an offline business and buying inventory. That would cost you thousands of dollars and 6 months to a year to even start turning a profit. So really my story itself was a big inspiration to really recommend Anton, and that's why I'm so happy to have him on the course. But not every single person will even gets to to the point where they even start a store. I mean, it's crazy knowing that the system works and you teach it in such an easy way. Why do you think a lot of people that that go on it just never take action?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's the way it works with most kind of products that will show people a system, or books, business books. Some people I know have every business book that's ever written, and they're working a 9 to 5 and complaining about their job. The main thing with me, I think I know why I'm successful. I started off before I knew anything about making money online. My plan was to work in an offline business, create one myself, and like I said, just keep growing these businesses and flipping them. And I was already prepared. I was mentally prepared to commit myself more than 100%. I'd work 80 hours a week if I had to. That was my plan. Like, I actually wanted to do that because I saw the value at a young age, actually, of what you can get by owning your own business. Just a quick side note with that, one of my uncles, I come from a middle-class family, but one of my uncles, my dad's brother, owns a pretty successful business in New York, and I saw how he lived compared to our family, and my family was never missing anything. We had a nice house, nice cars, everything was great, but I saw that he wasn't, any smarter per se, but he had a very nice house with another one in Florida. He had 2 boats at each houses. He had the sports cars, and he was kind of my mentor growing up. So I saw if I try a little harder on my own, and he worked. He didn't get lucky, and by no means, he worked for it. So I knew if I worked, I can get that too. So I had this mindset when I first started my own business that I will commit whatever it takes and I'll make it happen. Unfortunately, a lot of people see numbers thrown around online, and they hear I can make money online, and they think they could put up a site and really not do much and just have it come to them. It's much easier online than it is offline, but it's still a business. So think about it as a real business. If you're going to put up a site selling whatever it is, picture you were going to do that offline. Picture you're going to go find a place to rent, an actual storefront. Picture you're going to find suppliers for that, how much money you'd have to put into inventory, staff you'd have to hire, processes you'd have to develop to train people, everything you'd have to do. And just picture that compared to what you're doing online, and then put all the effort you would do into that to your online store, and then it'll work for you. You just have to think of it as a real business, not as some little thing you'll throw up online that's going to make you rich. Because it can make you money, but it's about commitment.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, even for me, I went through the same pitfalls. I watched the first video on Anton's course, and I was like, oh, man, this is awesome. This is great. Now I got to think of a niche. And then for 2 weeks, I didn't do anything. I just kind of let it sit there in the back of my mind thinking, oh, man, I know this works, but I just didn't want to spend the energy or time even doing the simplest thing of just writing down, niche ideas. And finally, I was lucky that Anton was coming back into Chiang Mai, and I knew that, I was like, before he comes, let me finish this homework and let me watch the rest of the video, so at least I know what I'm talking about, and I don't just waste his time asking stupid questions that he already answered in the video. And I was really in a desperate situation where I had almost no money left in my bank. I was down to less than $200 with no real source of income. The only income I had online was my book sales, which was only $100 or $150 a month from Amazon. And I was really stuck. But I knew this stuff worked. And even then, it was really hard to stay motivated when 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks down the line, I still wasn't making any sales, but I put all this work in. And you actually remember me, kind of just getting disgruntled and losing a little bit of faith for a while.
Yeah, and honestly, like with friends that I have that say they want to start an online business, I'm never proactive in trying to tell people, yes, you should do this, because I really think it all comes down to the actual person themselves. When I started for myself. I wanted to make it work for myself, so I don't want to push anyone in any direction. But I know after Johnny started, maybe after about 4 weeks of him asking me questions, he stopped asking questions, and I didn't know if he had kind of given up or if he was, I didn't know what his plan was, so I really didn't say anything. And then he asked me, maybe after about a month of not hearing about his e-commerce store, what would help. He wanted to get sales coming in because he wasn't really making sales yet. One of the things I recommended was just, putting the phone number on, and the next day he made 2 sales, and then he started optimizing his site a little more. That gave him the motivation. Once he had this first sales come in, he knew his website could convert customers, and he just did more and more research into his competitors, saw why they were so successful, and within a few weeks after that, it was just consistent, at least a sale a day, right? And,
yeah, and it was fantastic. I mean, getting that first sale really just put a fire under my butt, thinking, man, I actually just made money online, which is crazy. And I started doing the calculations, and I was like, if I just sell 1 product a day, and that's 30 products a month, and that already replaces a normal 9-to-5 income, even though I'm not working 8 hours a day anymore. In the beginning, I was spending almost 8 hours a day. I mean, I would say at least 4 hours a day, but I was really working. I was treating it as a full-time job, as a full-time business. But really, after the sales started coming in, I've really only spent maybe 20, 30 minutes a day just kind of fulfilling orders, kind of emailing some people back and forth, and it's completely replaced my income, and it keeps growing. I mean, I think the first month I made about $18,000 in sales. The next month I made $20K. Then the month after that made 22K. And this month, even though I've just been traveling, I hardly looked at it, and I'm really just outsourcing everything. It's still very consistent, and that's just one store. And the coolest thing about Anton's model is once you learn how to build the first store, the ones after that, really are a million times easier to build.
Right, and that's the beauty of like e-commerce and these stores in general. When you first start, there is a lot of work and there's no way around it. And that's why I'm saying you really have to commit yourself so much, because like Johnny said, he worked 2 months and didn't see any return. But you have to just believe in the business before you get started. You have to have that mindset of this is going to work. Just believe in it, believe in your store. And the way that you can kind of get help with that is look at your competitors and try to check their traffic. And I mean, just if you see these other sites that are already doing it, that are making money, there's no reason you can't. It's just a matter of if you want it or not. There's no reason that you can't build a better store than most of your competitors. And I'm not talking about Amazon. Amazon will always be there. You don't have to compete with them. You need the smallest percentage of their sales. I'm talking about other e-commerce stores that are smaller but still probably bring in millions of dollars in sales a year. They're very easy to duplicate, and if you want it bad enough, to actually take over. So if you commit to that in the beginning, you can get there. Just it's going to be a tough time. You're not making any money, and you're thinking, is this worth it? Just keep pushing. And the way that I kind of did that myself is I had goals that I wanted. I had things that I wrote down that I wanted to realize. And in the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss calls this dreamlining. I actually had these dreamlines, and I didn't share them with anyone else. I don't recommend doing that, but I had these things written down. Whenever I was like, okay, I'm meeting up with my future business partner every night, and we're doing all this research for nothing at this point. I just knew I'm doing this because I'm going to get X, Y, and Z in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years, and I got everything I wanted. So that's a really big point, I would say, to keep you motivated.
All right. So I actually just thought of a dream line that I'm gonna do. I want to become a Thai baht millionaire.
Yeah.
which is only really $30,000. But I mean, a couple of months ago, that would have been a pipe dream to even have that cash in my bank. Now I'm actually already halfway there. So I figure, okay, once I become a Thai millionaire, I'm gonna go out and reward myself and buy myself a gold watch.
There you go. Yep.
I mean, I don't need a gold watch. I don't even really care that much about it, and I'm not gonna go out and waste 10 grand on a Rolex for no reason. But to me, it's something that I've always wanted as a kid. I used to see these movies where people would retire at 65 and get a gold watch. To me, that's gonna be my symbol of retiring. So I'm just gonna go out and spend a couple $100 on a Seiko or something, and have that be my symbol of retiring and never having to work a 9-to-5 job ever again.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a great one because that means something to you, and so I'm sure everyone has something like that. And it could be just a trip. It could be a vacation. It doesn't have to be an actual physical product. But whatever it is, they're different for everyone, and that's why I don't recommend sharing them, because when you first write this down, it might seem extreme or it might even seem like a little weird. But and you show it to people, and then you might get discouraged, and they might say you're never going to get that. And once you start getting other people's opinions, that's going to throw you off your own path. So write it down, keep it to yourself, and whenever you get discouraged, look back at that and know why you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Whether it be a dropship site, whether it be whatever it is, whatever you're working towards, just have a list of your why and look back to your why to keep you motivated.
Yeah, I have a couple friends who started e-commerce stores after seeing my success. And in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, they were really motivated, really excited, and constantly asking me questions, constantly trying to build the stores. And it's kind of the same thing happened where they, because they all had normal 9-to-5 jobs, they had this hope and this dream for a while, and then they kind of just put it on the back burner and let a couple of weeks kind of go by. I really believe truly that this works, because if it doesn't, even if the first niche you pick isn't the best and you don't make that much money from it, you get all the experience from it and you can just continue making it. Like Steven, for example, who we had as a guest on episode 2, we just had lunch with him, and how many stores does he have now?
He has 2 that are live, and he has one that he started about maybe 6 weeks ago. He has one that went live 2 days ago, and he has maybe 5 or 6 in the works right now. So I'm really excited for him. He moved out here to Chiang Mai. He was living in China. He's from San Francisco, but he's out here now, and he just said to himself, I'm going to focus 1 month on nothing but building these stores and making it work. And his first store, he's been working on optimizing, and it went from, I think, 1 sale maybe his first couple of weeks to now he said he's doing about 5 sales a week, he told me this morning, which is great for the niche he's in because it's a very small niche, and he's kind of taking over right now. So I'm excited to see what happens with that store. His second store, he launched a few days ago, and he just made his first sale, and I think there's a lot of potential. So yeah, I'm excited for him.
Yeah, he actually, his story is very, very similar to mine. Actually, I think he kind of, what he did was he found Anton's course through my blog, and he basically decided, he's like, hey, if it worked for Johnny, let me just do the exact same thing. So these first couple of months, he's really plugging away, building his stores, and I can see 100% he's going to really kill it I mean, he's going to do fantastic.
Yeah, he's going to do great. And I think what's helping him too, like if any of you guys listening out there, if you don't have anyone around that could be, in a mentor role, just try to find some people that are successful. And an easy way to do it, if you don't know anyone that maybe you don't know anyone, maybe you work a 9-to-5 job and, everyone's just getting by. And I would go on websites like meetup.com and other marketing forums and try to find local masterminds and meetup. Even if you're just getting started, just go there and hearing these people talk, it'll really help. Some meetups I used to go to are SEO meetups, internet marketing meetups, and you go there and they'll give presentations and it'll just kind of just reinforce that it is possible to have this kind of lifestyle in business. So if you don't have a community already of people like that, just find one on the internet.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. I wish I had that 4 years ago, because I guarantee that if I had met people like yourself and all these other successful entrepreneurs that I know now, 4 years ago when I first got into this, I wouldn't have wasted all that time. I mean, and part of it, every day I do wish I would have started this earlier. If you're 18, 19, 20 and you listen to this and you can basically never work a normal real job, never put on a suit and tie and work in a cubicle, that's even better. But I'd rather have started now than 10 years from now. So
yeah, and exactly. I was telling you at lunch today, there's the guy that's probably making the most money in this entire program out of everyone that's signed up. He's in his 50s and he started an e-commerce store maybe 8 or 9 months ago after he joined the course, and he built an entire network. So right now he is running over 20 stores, and I've seen his analytics on some of them, and he is just absolutely killing it. He's making more money than I ever did with e-commerce, and he's in his 50s, but he does have an internet marketing background. He used to do graphic design, but he came into this, saw a new opportunity, and he's a real workaholic that's just running with it, and he's taking it to a whole different level than even I have. So it doesn't matter how old you are. If you want it bad enough and you believe it's going to work and you can commit to it, it will work for you.
Well, I think what's really cool about your system is you can kind of choose how you want to run with it, how many hours you want to put into it. So for me, even though the idea of making $100,000 a year in profit while running these online stores is nice, I'd rather make $50,000 and be able to travel the world and not work very much. So it really depends on the mindset of everyone. Like, I want to live like a millionaire, but I also want to just to relax and just enjoy myself. So that's why, I have a couple, I have my main niche that I started with you, and then, with your system, and then I have a couple other ones that I'm working on, but it's really not, I'm not spending 10 hours a day on it. I'm really just spending a couple hours a week just slowly building it, because the income I'm making from it already is more than enough to survive out in Thailand. And my only real motivation to make more is because I want to live in Europe over the summer. It's a little bit more expensive out there. So my goal for that is to get my other stores up and running and double my profit before I go out there.
Yeah, 100%. And people ask me all the time, like, okay, if there's thousands of niches available and you know how to build these stores, why don't you become the next Hayneedle or Wayfair or, just e-commerce massive company like this that does 500 million plus in sales a year? And it's because I have no desire to do that. I don't want to have a corporation where I need 20 employees in an office that I have to manage. I have no desire to do that. With this kind of business, it's up to you what you want out of life. I have numbers that were on my dream line and my goal list back in the day that I've far surpassed. And I do create new goals as I come on, but it's not as I grow my businesses, but it's not always just about how much money you can make. I'm not in business to bring in the most amount of money per year. I have more than enough for what I need and to save a lot, and that's what makes me happy. So it's really whatever you want out of it, you can get.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing about your personality is that you're really down to earth. For people I know back in the U.S. that make less than half of what you're making now, they go out and they flash that cash. They go out and they lease the nicest cars, open bottle service, buy Rolexes, and all these things that really aren't that useful. But I like how you use your money on being generous with your friends, going out to eat nice food, living in comfortable places and traveling.
Yeah, and I've went through the phases when I was younger. I'm 29 now. I started making a lot of money online when I was 21. So there was about 5 or 6 years that I went pretty crazy. But at this point, I don't need all that. I have what I need to be happy, and when I want to splurge, I splurge. But I can live a very comfortable lifestyle out here and even back home, and I don't need to be doing all that stuff. I'm not really into material things.
Yeah. So the other things about Anton's personality that I've noticed just getting to know him over these last couple of months is he works. When he has a new project and something that he's working on, he gets really, really motivated, and he works, like nonstop for up to 2 weeks at a time. But then, after you're done, I like how you just close your laptop, and then for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, you really don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier when I was hitting on, like, when you first started your store, it was 2 months without any income. You know, if I'm going to start a new store, I know I'm not going to make any money in the beginning. So instead of delaying that out, you know, working 2 hours a day on it, then, you know, going to the pool and relaxing, I'll just commit myself 100% to get it to profitability. And then I could do like what you're doing now when you work 20 or 30 minutes a day. But when I have the vision in my head of the product I could put out, the new site I could put out, the new store I could build, I do it as quick as possible, and then, you know, then I reap the rewards of working those short work days. But when I know I can make money in a new way, I'll commit myself to that till it's up and live, and it's either profitable or it's not. But I make it happen.
Well, what's really cool is I had asked you one day, do you test your niches? Because, you know, there are ways to test it before really, you know, investing time to drive traffic. And what I really liked about your answer was that you don't test it because it doesn't take that much time to put up a new store. And even if the store doesn't make that much money, you can kind of just not touch it, and it still makes a couple $100 or even $1,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly. It's risk versus reward. So especially with these e-commerce sites, I've been doing it so long. In less than a week, I'll put up the store, and so worst case scenario, I make a few $100 a month or more for years to come. Like it's well worth the time investment. And best case scenario, you know, I have a store that's going to do 6 figures a month in sales. So I have no problem committing to a project before I know how much money it's going to make.
Yeah, and the other thing that is really cool is how you flip and you sell some of these e-commerce stores.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I got started with that. I actually never intended to sell any of my sites, but like I was saying earlier when we started this, my first group of websites selling expensive products, I had started with a business partner. So we were 50-50 owners. We started them back in the day in 2007, and we got to a point where we really were kind of wanting to part ways. We just had grown apart, so we figured, okay, let's, you know, one of us could buy the other one out and just own the company by themselves. We each had our own e-commerce side projects, but the main core sites we started together, we wanted to buy each other out of. So we said, okay, how much would you give me? Well, I don't know. Let's try to value this thing. So neither of us knew how to value it. So we started calling business brokers and gave them all our financials, told them about our business, and had them evaluate it. And when they came back to us with the numbers of what they were worth, we were just blown away. And I told my business partner, there's no way I'm giving you half of that. And he said the same thing, because these are stores that we literally started for under $50 that were worth just more than I could imagine. So we said, okay, let's sell them. Let's see if he can actually find us a buyer that's going to give us this kind of money. And they came through. We started doing calls with potential buyers. And what I learned is there's a lot of companies out there looking to buy these e-commerce stores if they're bringing in a certain amount of sales. The starting level where you can get good buyers is if your store is netting about $50K a year, and we were doing much more than that. But the kind of buyers you get are sometimes people that are higher ups in companies looking to kind of leave a 9-to-5 or probably working more than that. You also get these investor groups that just buy sites. They have a group of investors that put in cash and they look for profitable stores that they could buy. We even had some hedge funds in Manhattan that have e-commerce sectors, and they were talking to us about buying it. We ended up selling it to a guy that actually owns other e-commerce stores and was just looking to increase his portfolio. But once I knew that we could sell these, then I just started selling off some of my own, and I started building to sell. It's a great way to really just get a lot of cash out in a short amount of time. And if you could show at least 12 months of profitability, especially if income's going up every month, you can get a really good value out of them.
Yeah, that's insane. That's something I didn't even really think about. I mean, right now, if someone offered me $50,000 for one of my stores, I actually would say no, because I enjoy having that monthly income, and I can see it growing still. But I could definitely see that down the line, if somebody offered me $150,000 or more, which is absolutely possible, I might just take it and just cash out.
Yeah, it's a great way, especially if you have other stores up that are making you money like I did. So when I first sold, I sold the sites that I had a partner with. So I still had my own sites that I was making income off of. And then when you sell sites, a lot of the times when you get to these upper price ranges, you could finance part of the deal. So maybe 50% cash down, maybe 75% in cash, and then the rest you just keep getting paid out on. So you could do it as a percentage of future revenue. You could do it as X amount of dollars per month plus interest. So I've still been getting paid out on sites that I've sold years ago every month. I have recurring income for sites I don't do anything on anymore. So I highly recommend building to sell, especially if you're first getting started. It's a great way to build a real bankroll and kind of secure yourself for a long term. Like, I know now I'll never have to work again. I'll never have to have a job again. I could stop today and I'll be fine. And that's a really good feeling. So maybe down the line I won't be selling businesses as often, but when you're first getting started, build up that bankroll. It's a great way to get that in there.
So what are 3 ways that people can build a site to sell?
I mean, just basically build a profitable store. But the main thing is to just track everything the best you can, because the real buyers, a lot of buyers will call the real people that are going to write that huge check to you. They want to see proof of everything. So every sale you make, obviously the e-commerce platforms do track that, but also your purchase orders. When you buy from the supplier, try at least once a year to get a report from your suppliers of how much money you paid them, broken down by the date, the order number. You want just records for all of that. So when they're going through your numbers, it's all taken care of. Also with accounting, I know a lot of people like to get creative and try to write off a lot to show their income is less, but if you want to sell a site, you want to show that high income. You don't want to tell a potential buyer, yeah, well, I had $50,000 in sales or $100,000 in sales written off to some expense that's not real. They want to see real numbers. So yeah, maybe you're making less money up front, but you're doing it the honest way, and you're going to get the most value out of your site. And then also when you're ready to sell, I highly recommend going through a business broker. I went through a company that they sell websites online. That's what they do. And there's a bunch of them. The one I used, I was very happy with. So I've went back to them, gave them a lot of business and referrals also. But yeah, just keep track of everything, and you'll be amazed on what they're worth. Basically, if your site's maintaining net profit every month, so making the same amount every month for a year, it'll likely sell between 18 and 24 times earnings, net profit per month, which is great. And if it's going up every month, it can sell for as much as 30 times net profit per month. So it's just a lot of cash at once. And like I said, if you're trying to build a bankroll, that's a great way to get it.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. And before, I had this dream where I wanted to work the 4-hour work week and just not have to log on every Monday, check my emails, and log off. And I can see that's absolutely possible now. And I could actually probably start doing it next week if I wanted to. But I actually don't mind working 20 minutes a day, because I just don't want to be tied down to an office, in some cold winter town. I want to just be able to travel and just go wherever I want. And now that I have the freedom to do it, I can see myself. One of my goals is next month I'm going to Cambodia for a month, just because I have no reason to go there. I don't even know anyone there, just because I heard it's beautiful. And my goal is, before then, I want to have my new employee trained up so she can handle all the customer service issues. And I want to actually double my income by the end of the year, and really just be able to crush it when I go to Europe.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you. We've been throwing around this idea, and I didn't realize any of this stuff before I really started getting into it. But we figured out a way to fly for free, really anywhere in the world, just by using airline credits, and just by doing a very, very simple thing that we're already doing now. And second, we might have figured out a way where we can basically travel and live for free an entire year just by not being in the U.S. So the first is the credit card. So I'm using Capital One Venture Card, which gives me 2 miles for every single dollar spent. And in revenue, just in gross revenue, my stores are selling over 20K a month, which is 40,000 miles a month. And so Anton, I know your stores sell a lot more. So how many miles is that a year?
Yeah, I have the Southwest rewards card, and that one I have just because when I first got started, that's what I signed up with. And when I first started, when I was younger, I was traveling around the States a lot. This is my first extended trip outside of the States, so it was perfect for me. So I need to look into some new ones when I get back, when I'm home for December. But yeah, what's great about it is when you start building up all these flights, like some of the things on my original dream line, I'm big into music and music festivals. So I've flown out with 6, 7, 8 of my friends to California from New York, and just take them all on flights because it's free. So it's a great way to go to these festivals and just travel around. In the winter, just go down to Florida every couple of weeks. It's free travel. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's incredible. So if you're just going to travel around the U.S., Southwest is pretty good. I had that as well. But the reason why I switched over is with the Venture Card, you can do something called a purchase eraser, where anything that's travel related, so it doesn't matter what airline you're using, or if it's a hotel room, like my hotel room here in Thailand, I'm just putting it on my credit card. All these purchases just get erased with my bonus miles. And so the other thing that we thought of is, so this loophole, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to get a tax specialist on the podcast in this upcoming weeks, and we're going to pick his brain on all the loopholes for these small businesses. And one thing that we're going to explore is, if you're out of the U.S. for X amount of days a year, which is around 330 days a year, you don't have to pay any tax on the first $95,000 worth of income. So how much does that save you per year on tax if you get that?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first, like I said, extended trip outside of the States. I've been gone for 9 months already. My plan was to go home for about 6 weeks and then go down to South America. But now I'm thinking I'm going to go down for 4 weeks and go down to South America, because what people are talking about here is if you spend, I think it's 330 days or more outside of the U.S. in a year, that you don't pay tax on the first $95,000 of income. So, I mean, that would be about a $35,000 savings. And living in Southeast Asia for the last 9 months, I've spent way less than that and lived a really good lifestyle. So it's basically like living for free for a year. I don't know any of the specifics about it. Someone was just telling me about this, who actually, his business is setting up corporations for different companies. So I think he knows what he's talking about. But I'm going to go home, I'm going to talk to my accountant, and then also talk to an accountant that has more experience with that, kind of get all the information that I need. And then if it's true, yeah, I won't be home for over a month. I know that.
And that's fantastic. I mean, what I really like about this is how many doors open. Once you start having income and you start having a business, doors literally just open left and right with opportunity. And these opportunities are not there if it wasn't for the hard work that you put in the beginning to build your business. And for me, if I didn't spend those first 2 months dedicated and building this business, I couldn't even dream of any of these opportunities. So I highly recommend to anyone listening to this, if you want it bad enough, I know Anton's system works. If you just follow it and tell yourself, no matter how much time, how much dedication, and how many long days I need to spend doing this, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it exactly the way he said, not to get discouraged. And once the money starts coming in, I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, and don't try to take the easy way out. Like, if you get started with it and you're trying to just kind of throw up aside and, really think of it as an offline business. Picture you're going to open whatever your niche is store in your city, and think about that and just commit yourself the same way you would. Picture you need it to work. Picture like Johnny actually needed it to work. He didn't have any money left and he was planning, and you said you were going to go home and maybe look for a job even. So don't like think of it like you must make money from this, and you can get it to work, but commit yourself. Don't look for an easy way out. Don't try to shortchange yourself. Set big goals and then just go after it and attack it as if you know it's going to work, because it does.
Yeah, I really did not want to go back, live in my parents' house, and look for a job. I mean, thinking back, that would have been a nightmare. Anton, thank you so much for...
You're welcome, yeah.
All right, so I want to ask you, so you don't have to give me any specific names, because I know you want to keep everyone anonymous, but can you give us a couple examples of people who've really made money from your course, and what are some character traits about them that help them, succeed?
Yeah, well, the guy that, like I said, I don't have access to everyone's numbers because no one has to give that to me. People sign up and I never hear from them. But one guy that I used to work with private email coaching back, maybe 8 or 9 months ago, who I do have access to his analytics, he keeps in touch. He's making more money than I ever have. And he's the guy that's in his mid-50s, I think. But the reason he's doing so well is because first of all, he believed in the system. Second of all, he's a real workaholic. He committed himself 100% to making it work with no, there was no question. He was never like, oh, maybe I'll make some sales, maybe I won't. He was emailing me, I remember when he first signed up, and he said, my goal is to make, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was over 6 figures a year in profit. And he just knew he was going to do it. There was no question of, well, maybe this store will be successful, maybe this one won't. It was, I'm going to put up enough stores until I'm making money. And so he has to be the biggest success story I know of. It's possible people are doing as well as him that I've never heard of, maybe not. Some other ones, and this is, I kind of have people, I tell them to email me their niche ideas so I can give them feedback, and I kind of stopped doing that as much because I've had people email me niche ideas that I personally would never get into, maybe because I think it's too small, maybe it's just because for some reason I don't think it'll sell well online. And I've had people email me after they've started stores to say thank you because they're making so much money, and they're in niches that I would never even imagine. So kind of, I would say maybe even think out of the box. Don't try to do the same thing everyone's doing. I know a lot of people, they think expensive items that, that don't maybe sell that much in local stores, and they think right to furniture and sub niches of furniture. And while that's great and there's money to be made, there's a lot of other expensive items that are outside the box that members are really doing well with. So don't limit yourself to just the main items that pop into your head at first. Write down the longest list you could think of.
I would highly recommend that as well. I mean, people, if you think of your niche too easily, if it comes to you within the first couple hours thinking about it, other people probably think of the same niche. So I would actually really spend the time, a couple of days, a week, and really, make a list. I mean, you could get by making a list of 10 or 20 niches and then picking from that. But if you just take a week and write down 100 things and then finding kind of the most obscure one that no one else is thinking about, your chances of that I'm doing well is so high because there's gonna be no competition in it.
Yeah, and that's what I did when I was saying when I first started my first expensive e-commerce store, not the bakery one, but the one in the high-end niches. Myself and my business partner, we literally spent about 2 months every night doing research. So we didn't see any return on that at all. He was working his job, I was doing my online business and meeting with him. We didn't see any return, but we wanted to make sure it would work. So we put so much time into our research, and that's why I say in the videos in the course that niche selection really is the most important part. You could do all the work in the world after that, but if you don't get that right, maybe it could be the difference between having a store that makes you a few $100 a month and one that makes you thousands. So that's a really big part.
So for the example that you used with the guy whose goal was to make over $100,000 in net profit per year, which is $10,000 a month, how many months did it take him to really start turning a profit?
It's tough to say because he emailed me after he had already got started, so I don't have access to all of his numbers, but I would say probably within the first couple months. He actually had started about 5 stores at the same time when he first got started, which I wouldn't recommend. I would usually say start with one, learn the system, and then expand from there, but he went for it. So maybe within a month or two he was doing well. It wasn't any crazy amount of time.
And this $10,000 a month in profit, did he hit that?
Oh yeah, he must have.
That's insane. I mean, to get a job where you're making $100,000 cash in profit, I mean, that's insane. I mean, especially with all these tax breaks as a business, the things that we talked about earlier, where $95K can just be written off just by traveling, and all these other things where you can by setting up a corporation, you can write off a lot of things like your travel expenses and your business expenses. That's the equivalent of making a salary of close to $200,000 a year.
Yeah, and then if you include the time worked, like the actual time spent on these businesses compared to the time you would spend at work to make $200K a year, it's just, you can't even compare it.
I mean, think about it. So your hourly rate would be, what is that? Over $1,000 an hour you're making? If you're working 8 hours a day, but if you're only working 2, I mean, you're really making $4,000 an hour by sitting at these stores, which is insane. I mean, I never would have even fathomed that was possible.
Right, and I mean, you're kind of doing that now when you're working your 20 and 30 minutes a day, and you're seeing these big deposits. I mean, your hourly rate's very high right now.
You know what? Let me just do some math real quick while we're on here, because I'm actually curious. I never really thought about that way. Okay, but so on average, I work 5 days a week, maybe 4, and I work. So let's say I work an hour a day, all right? Because some days I work a lot more. Some days I work a couple hours. Some days I just work 10 or 20 minutes. So let's say I work 5 hours a day. So I work 20 hours a week. And if I'm making $4,000 for one of my stores, divided by 20, what is that? Everyone listen to this, do math.
You're working 5 hours a day?
No, 5 hours a week.
Oh, a week, okay.
And making $4K. What is that? So $4,000 divided by 20 hours, all right? I'm making $200 an hour.
Yeah, to answer simple emails.
Yeah, just to answer some emails and just let it run. And that's just one of my sites. If I wanted to just duplicate that or get in other things, so what I'm doing is instead of building all these stores, I'm pursuing a lot of passions. Like, I really enjoy traveling. I enjoy hanging out with friends. I enjoy making little funny videos. I enjoy this podcast. So I have all this free time on top of that to do other things. And to me, really, I couldn't think of a better life. And so these people that are making all this money, are there any of them that are outside of the U.S. who have taken your business model? Because I know a lot of people who listen to this don't live in the U.S. I know it's a lot harder to do it if you're not in the U.S., but is it still possible?
It's possible. I don't know. Out of the people I'm talking about now, they're all from the States. I have one friend who is he's from New Zealand, actually, and he's living in Thailand now. And I met him here, and he started with the program. And he told me he was actually able to get approved with a bunch of suppliers in his niche while being based in New Zealand. He doesn't have a U.S. business set up at all. So I know it's possible. He's in the beginning stages now of building out his store. I wish I had more experience with it. I've never done it. I'm from the States, but I do know it's possible. I don't know the real details. I know if you wanted to do it and set up a corporation in the States or an LLC, you could do that pretty easily. So you can make it work.
I know there's a thread on your forums, and what I actually really like about those forums is it lets people kind of help each other throughout the process. So if you sign up for the course, you get access to these private forums where you can talk to other members. And I know there's a whole thread for just Canadians.
Oh yeah, there's an entire thread from people just talking about how to register your business, how to do business in the States from Canada. So it's perfect. I mean, I think the forum is probably the best part of the course because just having access to videos, it's great, but you're going to have questions, and chances are someone else has had the same question. And if not, there's tons of people there to help you that are already making money online, and it's a great resource.
So what I would personally do if I lived in another country, if I lived in somewhere in Europe, Australia, or maybe even Canada, I would take your course and I would just do that, but I would do it just in Australia or just wherever I live, because we were talking about earlier how, I mean, e-commerce really isn't that big in a lot of other countries yet, and especially like, let's say here in Thailand, I mean, it's gonna blow up. I mean, right now nobody orders anything online, but I mean, people are starting to love to shop. China would be a fantastic market as well. But what's really cool about starting a store in your home country is, first, you already know you know a lot of the ins and outs about what people like to do online, as in shopping wise in your own country. Nobody wants to buy something from America and wait 2 weeks for it to ship, go through customs, have to pay these import taxes on just to get it. If you can find a niche idea that works well in the US, no matter how competitive it is in the US, and start it in Australia or New Zealand or Germany, you can make a killing. You can basically just take over the market.
Yeah, a lady actually emailed me yesterday, I think, or maybe even this morning, I don't know, from Australia, who had just signed up for the course, and she was asking me, do you think I should do business in my country or should I do business in the States? And she had emailed me some links to potential competitors in Australia. So I had went to these sites and I did a little research, to help her out, and I saw the market's just wide open. So I said, if I was you, I'd 100% go for Australia. Don't even worry about the US right now, because I think she has a huge potential. And if she's one of the people that commits to this course and actually does what she should do, what the video showed to do, I think the sky's the limit with that.
Yeah, you would kill it. I mean, now I wish I lived in Australia or something. I'd almost even consider being, as an American, opening a dropship business in Australia, because I really think it's going to be that lucrative. Because why compete against all these other American companies if you can be one of 3 in all of your own country, and you can offer 1 day free shipping because your country is smaller? Man, it'd be insane.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities worldwide. I mean, the States is still, I think, the biggest market, so there's always buyers. But yeah, if you're overseas, definitely research your own markets as well, because you might find a lot of potential there.
Yeah. The other thing I've taken from your course is, now that I know it's possible to make money online, and I have a basic framework of what people want, like, for example, for dropshipping, for one of my niches, now that I know people want to buy this product online, and I know what are the best sellers, if I wanted to, then I can actually go into importing my own private label products and selling at a much higher margin, because it's all been tested already.
Yeah, that's really the beauty of it. And I've done this before, and I'll do it eventually when I'm in the States for a longer period of time. The best way to make easier money on these sites, so you have your dropshipping site set up, figure the average net profit's about 25% of your sales. If you want to increase that, like Johnny said, track what the best sellers are, find a supplier in China that can make you these items, obviously not a knockoff, but a similar product. Try to get a good price point, import them, and then put them on your site, make them the featured product. So create your own brand name. It'll be a new brand added to your site, and try to drive traffic to those pages from every other page on your site, and try to sell the most of them, and your margins will just shoot up in no time. And that's a way to not get started with importing with a huge cash outlay. You already know the products are going to sell. You've already been making cash off your dropship sites. You can reinvest some, and you already have the market. So it's a great way to get into importing.
If I ever decide to live back in the U.S., and I'm sure I will in the future, I'm not done traveling yet, but as soon as I want to just settle down in the U.S., if I get married, and I want to start making $1 million a year, if I want to be a true millionaire and just bring all this money, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna import products for all the niches that I have already that I know work, test new ones by drop shipping, and I mean, it's going to be insane.
It's great. And I mean, that's what you do. You keep your dropship sites up, and you have your own brand now as one of the brands you sell for. Obviously, it's the one that you promote the best. And then another way to just increase your revenue even more is to create a new website, not that sells these products, but a website for your brand. So you're selling whatever it is, you have your brand name, make a website as if you're just a manufacturer and wholesaler, and then have that product sold on other dropshipping sites too, your competitors, and it's just more money for you. So it's a great way to kind of expand and take it to the next level once you get there.
Man, so all this knowledge, all this potential, but you guys got to get started. All right, and the worst thing you guys can do is wait 4 years like I did to get started. I mean, really, you really have nothing to lose. If you want it bad enough, all the information is out there. All right, Anton's course is so simple to use, and what I actually really like about it, and this is a funny story that a lot of people don't know, is the reason why your videos are so candid and just you talking is it was supposed to be like a first draft, right?
Yeah. Yeah, basically, I recorded the first set of videos. And I wanted to see how they came out. I'd never used Camtasia before. It's the screen capture software. So I made these PowerPoint presentations, and I recorded my screen, and I recorded myself going through the motions as if I was going to start a new store. Okay, here's what I do first. Here's what I do second. And I broke that all down into video modules. And it was really the first draft, and I published it online. People started joining up, and the feedback I got was amazing. So I thought, okay, why we recorded? It's great the way it is. And yeah, it's the first draft.
But that's the cool thing about it. And the reason why I trust you so much is because you're such a genuine, honest guy. And there's no fancy special effects on it. I don't even think there's any titles on there. It's just you literally going on your computer, walking me through like you would if you were sitting next to me as a friend. All right. So if you guys want to go to antonmethod.com, or if you can follow the links on travellikeabosspodcast.com, episode 10. It's on there, and you have the best thing about it is there's a 60-day money back guarantee, which is fantastic. And what's really cool is your rationale and the reason you told me you have that is if someone is not going to put in the work, let them have their money back.
Yeah. I didn't create this course just to, take money from people. I created it after I did drop shipping for years and years and years as a way to help people out. So if you sign up and you see it's not for you, and if you know you're not going to take action, I prefer you don't sign up at all. But if you sign up and something happens and, you go through the videos and you say, okay, it's not for me right now, just it's right on ClickBank. So it's very easy to get a refund just like that. And for up to 60 days, I have no problem. If you're not going to take action, I don't want your money.
Man, all right. So for the people listening out there, this worked for me. I know it's worked for other people that I've met personally as well. People that I literally sit next to at lunch. And if you want it bad enough and you're willing to put in the work, it works. I will guarantee it, and Anton guarantees it. ClickBank guarantees it. So really, there's absolutely no reason just to wait around. Absolutely the worst thing you can do is wait another 6 months, year, 2 years, working on a job that you don't love and wasting the time, because the door is really open. And I guarantee by the time you get around to changing your life on your own, I'm gonna be at a whole nother level. I'm gonna be importing products and making crazy margins. I'm gonna be living in Europe. I'm gonna be traveling South America, and I want you guys to come along with me. So come to the show notes, Travel Like a Boss podcast, episode 10, or check out antonmethod.com and just get started. Anton, thank you so much for being on the show, but not just being on the show, for becoming a friend, for showing me the system, and basically you're funding my life. I don't know if you realize that, but you're
funding your life by taking action and making it work. So I showed you the way, but you ran with it. I could show 1 million people the way, and let's see who makes it happen. But you did it, so I'm proud of you. Yeah, and keep it going. I love the podcast too. So good luck on everything, man. You're doing great.
All right, guys. Peace out. Tune in next week. See you guys around.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.